how to fit the work into a busy life. When every inch of ground is taken, where do you find room for one more thing? How to fit the work into a busy life. The problem in life is that there are too many good things to do. It's good to sleep, it's good to make healthy meals and eat them peacefully, it's good to exercise, it's good to invest time and energy in a job, it's good to spend time with family and friends. It's good to learn new things. It's good to bathe. It's good to clean the house. It's good to meditate. It's good to do the work. Unfortunately, it's usually not possible to do it all. So how do you decide what to do and what not to do? Most of us let life decide for us. We focus on whatever demands the most attention, usually emergencies, or whatever's easiest to do. And this often leaves no room for the more subtle, long-term practices that also bring joy, such as the work of Byron Katie. You can make these decisions consciously or unconsciously. If I just let emergencies decide for me what to do, then I will stay busy putting out fires. I've done that many, many times, and I know many people that live that way as well. The problem is there's always another fire. So it just keeps going and going. But if I step back and look at my life objectively, I can see that some areas of life are actually more important to me. And those areas are often not fires to put out. They're usually more quiet activities, things that nourish me, things that that I love to do, but are not emergencies. And those areas are just sitting there waiting to be encouraged, or waiting to be brought into the light. These quiet, long-term interests don't cry out for attention like emergencies, but they're actually very dear and meaningful. And spending time on these aspects of life can actually be a foundation for a happy life. The thing is, though, it requires some conscious attention to notice these things and to actually act on them. They need some protection from the ways that emergencies override them. And without conscious attention, they're easily lost or hidden from view or just deferred until some later date, which never comes. Doing the work of Byron Katie is one of those things, at least for me. It's a quiet, meditative practice, and it doesn't demand that I do it. And so when I'm faced with other emergencies, it tends to come second, like job emergencies, family emergencies, financial emergencies, even just demanding people. Like, I'll just put this self-care on the back burner while I deal with these demanding people. So anything quiet like this, anything meditative like this, often becomes the last thing that we end up doing. So I like to think of how to protect the practice. It's something that if I don't create some kind of protection around, then it just gets overrun by all the other needs of life. Because it's a subtle practice, the work needs time and space where chaos and emergency demands cannot reach it. So I've made a list of some of the ways that I have found work for me and some of my clients of kind of protecting this space, creating a space and protecting it that will allow me to do the work on an ongoing basis. When I say space, I mean space and time. Both are important, and I kind of like to find an area where it's not going to be overrun by emergencies. So here are some ways that I like to protect the practice of the work. One is to make an appointment with a friend or facilitator to do the work. This kind of agreed upon meeting time can serve as a shield from the chaos of life for 1 hour. We do it all the time. We make a meeting with somebody and then we don't answer our phone during that time. We don't text during that time. We don't check our emails during that time. The door's closed. Everybody knows for 1 hour I'm not available. So there's something about working with somebody, doing the work in spoken form with another person at an agreed upon time that creates a protection there. And this can be done on a daily basis even. So that's the next point, which is make an ongoing appointment for doing the work with somebody. Better than meeting just once to do the work, meeting once a week or once a day or at some other regular interval gives a bigger protection for the practice. And then no matter what's going on, the meeting routine holds on, and this I find to be very effective. The other thing I really love about an ongoing appointment is that basically time keeps going, and even though it's a 1 hour segment or a half-hour segment, whatever it is, there's another one coming and another one coming and another one coming. And as long as I keep going, there's really almost an infinite amount of time. And this gives me a feeling of plenty, like a feeling of affluence of time that I can take my time, slow down, work smaller pieces of work without any pressure of like, oh my God, be really productive in 1 hour. So having an ongoing appointment can be a really big protection for this practice of the work. And it can also be by yourself. It doesn't have to be with another person, but with another person often is a stronger support because you want to show up for the other person. Another protection is to find a time when you're not expected to be available. So early morning is a good time for many people. Late at night can work for people. Certain breaks during the day or transition times of any kind. These can all be excellent times to carve out a protected area for doing the work each day. I do the work at the very start of my business day before I check emails and get into projects. And I love this. It's like before everything hits me, I've spent at least a half hour of doing the work, and I do it in written form. But I love that. It's the same time every day, and it's just kind of a part of my routine now. Another way to protect this practice is to tell others that you're meditating now. Have a friend or spouse even be like the guard dog for you while you close the door and do your work. So letting people know can be a huge help. If I just close the door and hope they don't interrupt me, then I'm really a sitting duck. But if I tell them ahead of time and say, hey, I'm going to be gone, please don't interrupt me this time, the chances of not being interrupted and the chances of getting respect from the other people for being included in that are much higher. Another interesting one is to create a series of small breaks. And this is interesting. You can do 5 minutes of the work and then another 5 minutes of the work later in the day and another 5 minutes of the work and maybe another 5 minutes. Like 4 times 5 is 20 minutes. And you could easily do a whole piece of work in written form in that way. So it's possible to do a little bit of the work, then stop, and then come back to it. And it can come back to it the next day. It doesn't have to be completed that day. And I find writing in a notebook really helps with this, or writing on a computer document really helps with this because it's easy to pick up where I left off. Another thing that helps with these smaller segments of time, it helps anyway, but especially with these smaller segments, is some kind of reminder system like in a calendar. Then another way to protect the practice is to take a class. This kind of regimen of assignments in a class can really support the practice. You're kind of externally motivated, but that external motivation is really for you to come in and do your inner work. So it's a great combination of using something external to support your internal practice. And then finally, find a group or a group to support your practice. And the power of a group cannot be underestimated for protecting a practice. That's why athletes practice in teams. That's why musicians practice together, why students study in schools, why business people work together. When everyone around you is also doing the work, it becomes easier to do. So I do that with my inquiry circle group. We have a group of people there, and I love to show up and do my work there, and they're doing the same. And we kind of encourage each other just by showing up. Meditation time versus other time. It's interesting, but meditation time does not tend to mix well with other time. When I'm available and responsible to others, it's kind of hard to listen to those quiet whispers within me. Meditation requires some time dedicated just to that. Now, with the practice of meditation, I become better and better able to listen to myself even when chaos is going on around me. But the practice of meditation is what cultures that, and that often requires just some time away from all of the busyness of life. Is dedicating some regular time to the work valuable to you? I invite you to really think about that. Just sit with that and see what's true for you. If yes, then what options do you have for fitting it into your life? Doing nothing lets chaos dictate the direction instead. So take some time and see what works for you. Make some plans. Luckily, the work is there for emergencies too. So if things get too stressful, you can always do the work and find peace again without having a practice. But why stop there? Why not make finding peace a regular part of your life? Take some time to look at your schedule today. Where could you fit this beautiful practice into your routine? And here's a quote from Byron Katie. Through inquiry, we discover how attachment to a belief or story causes suffering.